So a few years ago, I made a video explaining how you can tell your parents that you're dropping out of college. Now, when I made that video, I had been out of college for, I believe, a little over 1 month. And as I'm filming this video right now, I've been out of college for over 3 years. And it's fairly safe to assume that I made the right decision, given that I'm filming this for my YouTube channel, which is my primary source of income. At the time, I didn't know that that would be the case, but lo and behold, that ended up being my path. Now, in my YouTube career, I've sort of become a bit of a coach in a sense, in that a lot of people come to me for advice, especially when it comes to following their dreams. Now, one of the most common dilemmas that people present to me is that they want to drop out of college, or that they don't even want to go to college in the first place, but they don't know how to tell their parents. And that's why I'm remaking this video. I want to remake this video with the perspective and the insight that I've gained from having taken that leap of faith on myself and it having paid off in various ways, in much greater ways than I could have ever anticipated. Now, with that being said, first off, I want to address the fear and the guilt. Okay, a lot of people, when they are pondering that decision, whether or not they want to drop out of college, they have this fear and this guilt that prevents them from taking that leap of faith on themselves. Okay, a lot of times the fear stems from the fear of making the wrong decision and guaranteeing a life of failure, and that could not be further from the truth. I'm not here to invalidate your feelings, but I do want to bring more clarity and insight to them. Okay, the fear that you feel is all illusory. It's conditioning based. Society, and in particular, the school system and your parents, more than likely, have conditioned you to believe that college is absolutely necessary to be successful. I'm living proof, as well as millions of other people, I'm living proof that that's simply not true. You don't need college to be successful, especially in this day and age when we have access to the internet. And one of the biggest arguments that people present to counter that point is that college is a backup plan. College is a plan B. But the problem with that is when you're pulling out tens of thousands of dollars in student loans and accumulating this debt at such a young age, it's not a plan B. It has to be your plan A, because you're putting forth tens of thousands of dollars into it every single year. So unless you're on a full ride, or unless your parents are paying for your college, then you owe it to yourself to go in the direction that you know you want to go in. Otherwise, you're basically dedicating yourself to a life of misery. A life of misery, because once you get that degree and you pull out those loans, you have to use the degree. You can't follow your dreams because you have to pay back that debt. Now, as far as the guilt goes, a lot of this guilt is prevalent in second generation Americans or second generation immigrants in general, because their parents sacrificed a lot to put them in a position to go to college. But you have to reframe that narrative. You have to reframe the narrative that your parents sacrificed for you to go to college, and instead look at it as your parents sacrificed so that you could live a happy life. Now, if you know that college isn't going to help you live a happy life, in that college doesn't align with your purpose, then you shouldn't go to college. Otherwise, your parents sacrificed for nothing. They sacrificed for nothing because you're sacrificing your dreams to fulfill the dreams that they have for living vicariously through you. And in reality, nobody wins, because you both sacrifice for each other and nobody actually gets the better end of the deal. You need to honor the sacrifices that they made by doing what makes you happy, because you can't be successful in life if you're not happy with what you do. It doesn't matter how much money you make. Financial security does not equal success. I'm going to repeat that. Financial security does not equal success. Now, I'm saying all of this because your parents will probably try to leverage your guilt and your fear against you. If you have guilt and fear, they will use those feelings to convince you, to sway you, to encourage you to go to college, even if you don't want to, even if you know in your heart that it is not the right decision for you. Now, with that being said, if you tell your parents that right there, they probably won't understand. They're probably not going to understand that you don't need college because they needed college, or they've been conditioned to believe that they need college, and therefore they believe that you need college. So here's what you're going to tell them. You're not going to tell them that you're dropping out. You're not going to tell them that you're not going to college, okay? Especially if you have a dream that is more in the creative field or something that's off the beaten path. You're not going to tell your parents that you're not going to college because you want to be a singer. You're not going to tell them that because they're not going to be on board with it, more than likely. If you're watching this video, the chances are you feel like your parents aren't going to be on board with this. So what you're going to tell your parents is that you're taking a gap year or a gap semester. You decide which one you want to tell them depending on which you think they'll respond the best to, but tell them that you're taking either a gap year or a gap semester because, okay, and this is very important because since they're operating from the logical frame of mind, you're going to need to give them some type of reasoning as to why you're taking a gap year or semester. So you're going to tell them that you're taking a gap year or semester because you don't know what you want to major in and you don't want to pull out tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt in order to take classes that you might not actually need to take. College isn't just a matter of you taking a random set of classes and then getting your degree. There is a specific track of classes that you have to take for each major. So for example, you have the courses that pertain specifically to that major, and then you have the prerequisites for those courses, and then you have the prerequisites for those courses. And it trickles all the way down to the base classes that you take. Even those first few classes that you take will not be the same for every major. So I would actually recommend that everyone take a gap year or gap semester, even if you do want to go to college. But that's a different discussion for a different day. You're going to tell them that you're taking a gap year or a gap semester, and you're not lying to them. Because what you have to understand is that you can never actually drop out of college. You can't. If you go to college and you drop all of your classes, you can always come back. And because of that, you can never drop out. Technically speaking, I'm not a dropout. It's impossible to drop out. I'm just on an extended vacation, an extended gap year, 3 gap years consecutively. But if I decided right now that I want to go to college and I want to sign up for college tomorrow, I can do that. I can still do that. So you can't ever truly drop out. So you're not lying to them. I understand that some of you may feel uncomfortable with lying to your parents, and I get that. Okay, if you're a person of integrity, then yeah, you should be impeccable with your word. But at the same time, you have to understand semantics. You have to understand semantics. You are taking a gap year or a gap semester to figure out what you want to do in life. Now, if that approach doesn't work, then you just have to be straight up with them. You just have to tell them, hey, I'm dropping out of college, or hey, I'm not going to college. Because sometimes if people aren't willing to rationalize with you, you just have to lay down the law. And I understand it can be very intimidating to do that, but you're at that age now where you have the right to think for yourself. Now understand that they also have the right to decide that they will no longer provide you with accommodation. In other words, they can kick you out for not going to college. They have every right to do that. But also understand that if they're going to do that, you probably shouldn't be around them that much anyways. Because at this point in time, they are toxic and controlling. They're toxic and controlling. If they're going to kick you out for not going to college, then why would you want to be around them anyways? Okay, you need to set boundaries, and moving out is a great way to do that. Now, if you feel like that may be a possibility that your parents will kick you out, even if you tell them that you're taking a gap year or gap semester, then you can take the third approach, which is don't tell them at all. Just don't tell them that you're dropping out of college, or don't tell them that you're not going to college. Pretend like you're going, and then just don't go. Instead of going to college, you're going to work, and you're stacking your bread. And then when you tell them that you're not going to college, you tell them that you dropped out 6 months ago, you say, oh, I dropped out. And by the way, I'm moving out in 2 weeks. I just signed the lease for my apartment. Because you have the money to do that, okay? If you feel like your parents are going to put you in that type of predicament where they're just going to kick you out, they're going to pull the rug from under you because you won't allow them to live vicariously through you, you need to get out of that situation. But that starts with putting yourself in the financial position to get out of that situation. Use that time that you would have spent going to college to work instead. And by working, you'll accumulate the money. And then you can take that second approach and just be straight up with them. Be straight up with them. Say, hey, I dropped out of college and I'm also moving out. So don't even worry about kicking me out because I'm already leaving anyways. It's kind of like if you put in your 2 weeks notice before a job has a chance to fire you. Okay, you're taking control of your life. Because like I said, you're at that age where you can and should do that. Now I understand that this can be very, very intimidating for an 18-year-old. But you know what else is intimidating? Pulling out tens of thousands of dollars in student loans that you will have to repay with interest.